What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Best Self Blueprint. For those of you who do not know or haven't tuned in before, the whole mission of this podcast is quite simply to help you move that dial towards becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So sometimes do that through having some amazing guests come on the show. Other times, like today, it's a solo episode where I dive into a particular topic. So before I get into what that topic is, please, the YouTube spiel, give this a like if you think it has value or anything that I talk about helps you out. Make sure you comment. If you have any type of question, comment, concern, agreement, disagreement, throw that in there. And please, if you know someone who you think will get value from what I'm about to go into, please share this with them. That is the whole point of me sitting in a studio recording this, is so that hopefully it can help somebody out. So the topic for today is part 4 of the framework series, the audit. So what is the framework series? If you've tuned in before, you already know, but frameworks is a year-long series I'm putting on in the studio, one framework a month. And each framework was hand selected, whether it's one that I created, one that I have heard from a different author or creator, or a mixture of the two, where I take a concept and put my own twist on it. But the whole purpose of boiling it down to 10 frameworks is because these 10, I believe, tackle the most fundamental aspects of behavior change and getting yourself set up for a successful, fulfilling, peaceful, purposeful life. So the audit, I did this one in April during tax season, hence audit. And I believe this is one of the most important frameworks I've come across because it really helps you protect and manage the inputs coming in. And this is all the inputs, the people, the places, the activities, the food, the drinks, the entertainment, the thoughts, the beliefs, all of these inputs that in turn influence how you think, speak, act towards yourself, towards your community, towards the world in general. And so if this is something that you notice you haven't been intentional about, or you hear people, places, activities, thoughts, beliefs, and you realize, oh yeah, I'm struggling to get around the right people. I'm struggling to establish the right habits and activities. Maybe I'm just struggling with my time and prioritizing the things that will help me. This will be for you. So getting into it, got my handy dandy little packet. So I always, for any workshop, I hand out a custom note-taking packet. That way, when you leave, you don't just have an hour to 90 minutes of me yapping at you, but you actually have something to take away so that you can implement these things moving forward. But for this, I highly recommend, if you really want the most out of this episode, grab a notebook and pen. Unless you're driving, then be safe and keep driving. But let us get into it. So the first piece, and I put a quote above each of the sections in this packet, so I will say them quotes right now. So the first quote is by Melanie Mackey. Decide what kind of life you actually want. Then say no to everything that isn't that. This sums up this whole framework pretty concisely and eloquently. So the whole framework is helping you say no to all of the inputs that are not serving the grand picture of the life you actually want. Step 1, get clear on the life you want. And part of that is realizing what doesn't feel right, what doesn't feel aligned for you that you're currently giving energy to, or you're currently allowing to give energy to you. So all of those inputs, again, people, places, activities, we'll go through all of them throughout this. But if you haven't yet and you have the ability to do so, pause this, grab a pen and paper, and really go through these topics one at a time and do this audit. Make sure that you're really implementing this so that you can benefit from more than just the thought practice of it. So number 1 is people. So for this one, I have a Hal Elrod quote. Always seek people who will add value to your life and bring out the best in you. And of course, be that person for others. So this is family, friends, significant other, coworkers, people that you are around consistently who you give energy to and receive energy from on a regular basis. Now, this one, it's pretty simple. You're going to write out all of the names. And so in the packet, again, I'm sorry if you can't see this very well, but in the packet, there's family, friends, significant others, or significant other, depends what kind of lifestyle, and other frequently contacted individuals. So you'll actually write out all of the names. So I wish I would have brought the packet I actually filled out, but I didn't. But next to all of the names, you are simply going to draw an up arrow, a down arrow, or a sideways arrow. So up arrow, it is very clear to you that this person is in alignment with who you are trying to be, the highest version of yourself, best version of yourself. Are they in alignment with that person, or are they pulling you away from being in alignment with that person? And that's why I say a sideways arrow, because there are people who serve different purposes in your life. I have friends who just this past weekend, my friend group from high school that I love and adore, if any of you are listening to this, that was a very fun weekend, but it was a weekend of celebration. It was by no means a weekend of productivity. It was no means a weekend of doing highly contributing things. It was simply a weekend to unplug, be present, and have some fun. And those friends are great for that. But a lot of those friends aren't the friends that I meet up with to do really intense training for a camp before a race or an event. And so that's what I mean by different people serve different purposes in your life. And that's perfectly fine. I think that's actually important is that you don't try to make every person be everything. But for complete alignment, even though there's going to be different buckets of people, making sure that there is at least a form of alignment that this person holds. A good way to think about this is 3 questions for each name on that sheet. If you've made plans with this person or with this group, before you're with them, do you feel excited? Do you feel anticipatory in a good way? Or do you feel like you're dragging your feet? Do you feel like you're just doing it out of obligation? So that's the first question. The second question, when you're actually with this person or group, does it feel energizing? Does it feel fluid? Does it feel present and you feel engaged and curious and revitalized? Or do you notice that you're just checking the clock, waiting for the time to be up before this obligation is over? And then the third question, when you're done with your time with this person or group, do you feel revitalized? Do you feel reinvigorated? Do you feel like your cup just got filled? Or do you feel like it just got drained? Do you feel like you need to go take a nap or shower to get the energetic residue off of you? So going through the people in your life, and this doesn't mean if someone's on this list and there's a down arrow that you automatically have to cut them out. Maybe it just means setting a boundary of how much time you spend with that person, in what dynamic do you spend time with that person, and getting clear on that. So that way, just like anything else, making sure that it feels rewarding and purposeful being around the people you're around. So that's the first part is people. Again, if you have questions on this stuff, throw it in the comments. You can send a message to any of the social media platforms on Best Self. I'll make sure I take a look, but make sure that the people you're around are worth being around. And on the flip side, what arrow would you draw for yourself? So yes, this is an audit of inputs, but while we're on the topic, are you adding value to these people? Are you being the person who adds value to their life and bringing out the best in them? Or do you need to check yourself? Food for thought. So the next topic after people is places. So this is a quote by William H. Stewart. A truly healthy environment is not merely safe, but stimulating. I love this quote, and I don't know if I took it out of context to William. I am sorry if I did, but I think this hits the nail on the head for environment, physical environment. So your home, your place of work, your hobbies, if there's a specific environment that you typically do those in, is it not merely safe, but stimulating? Is it conducive to the thing you're trying to do at the place and in the environment? So for me, I love working in the studio. It's not merely safe, but it's stimulating. The aesthetic is very calming. It helps me get in a creative flow for work. At home, I am very guilty of this. I realized this when I did the audit. I unfortunately have not set the boundaries yet of making home just be a place for relaxation. Obviously, this is my opinion. This is not what you have to do, and this is the only way. But what I've found seems to work the best for me is when I'm in the studio, I do work. And if I'm at home, I've now, after going through this, I have a chair and a little sliding desk that is my work area. But I cannot bring work energy into, like, for a long time, even when I was in bed, I would have my laptop and I'd be doing work, or I'd be on my phone and I'd be doing work. Now that stuff is bed is for sleep and relaxation, and that's what it's there for. And all that tangent to say, are the environments you have conducive and stimulating for what the purpose is of that environment? So when you're home, does it feel like home? Meaning, is it a place you can truly relax? Do you feel like it serves the purpose you want it to serve well? This oftentimes, at least putting on the fitness hat for a second, as a former personal trainer, I think this is why home gyms are so ineffective for a lot of people, is because it's right there. It's home. The reason that the gym has the feeling that it has is you can separate and get into that new emotional state. It's got the people, it's got the machines, it's got the aesthetic, it has just that feel to it. And so, yeah, making sure that home feels like home and it allows you to do what you want home to do. Work feels like work and it allows you to do the work you need to do. And then the other places you frequent, do they have the aesthetic and the feel in the physical environment to optimize what you're there to do? So that's a good one to think about. And again, just writing out, like in this, I have home, I have work, and I have other frequented places. So for home, even breaking it down by room, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, living area, whatever other rooms you have in your house. Really breaking this down and thinking about what are the little adjustments I can make. Now, this feels like a good point to put this caveat in here as well, because inherently, this whole packet is just criticizing things that are not optimal. Give yourself the due credit for the things that are well established, that are optimizing and helping you be in alignment with that best version of who you can be. So if your home is relaxing and clean and calm and it smells good and it's organized, don't nitpick the one thing that's out of order sitting on your counter right now. Give yourself the credit and the praise for setting up and building the foundation. If when you wrote out all those names, if you have 40 names on your list and 2 of them have down arrows, don't criticize yourself for not setting boundaries or keeping people in your life that necessarily shouldn't be there. Give yourself the praise for the 38 people who are in alignment with who you want to be and feel like they're great relationships and inspiring people. So wanted to throw that in there. But moving on to the next one. So we had people, next was places. After that, social media. So, quote by Sean Gardner, social media is not just an activity, it is an investment of valuable time. This is so freaking true. And the number of podcast episodes I've brought up social media is probably at least a dozen. I've brought up social media. It's probably way more than that. It's probably in the 20s or 30s. But social media, who are you following on social media? What type of content do you like? What type of content does the algorithm put in front of you on a regular basis? How much time do you spend on social media? For content creators who do that for work, I would look maybe a little bit more at the consumption side. So, how much time are you spending just scrolling through, watching videos, doing all of that? So, who are you following? What type of content do you consume? What type of content do you like? What type of content does the algorithm show you? How much time are you spending on it? I call this open season. So usually at least twice a year, I go through my social media, particularly like Instagram, YouTube. That's pretty much it. I only go on Facebook really to post stuff. Um, TikTok, same thing. I don't really use TikTok at all, but the ones that you consume. So for me, again, Instagram, YouTube. Open season for me is going through all of my followers or all of my people I follow and ones that I think aren't in alignment with the consumption I'm looking to get, I unfollow. And then I make sure that I almost just recalibrate my awareness around what is the algorithm showing me, because it's a good indicator of that there's some smart people working at those social media companies. So it's a good indicator of what do they know about you in terms of your focus and your awareness. So social media is huge. Make sure that you take the time, look at what you're looking at. And that segues well into the next one, which is entertainment. So this is a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. When we read a magazine, we consume. When we watch a TV program, we consume. Whatever we consume affects our body and mind. If we consume toxic articles, movies, or video games, they will feed our craving, our anger, and our fear. This one is a tough pill to swallow. I never really got super into video games in terms of like shooter games or like the newest gaming system I owned was a PS2 that I shared with my brother. And really, I just played backyard sports and Spyro the Dragon. So pretty up to the times, I know. But this is again, TV, movies, video games, podcasts, music, books, all the forms of entertainment. So first of all, what forms of entertainment do you frequent? If you're someone who wants to be reading daily, but instead you're watching 4 episodes of Netflix a day, it may not be easy to switch, but it is a very simple swap. But so looking at what are your frequented forms of entertainment? What is the typical messaging of the entertainment you consume? And how do you think you're affected by the entertainment you consume? And not just surface level response. Really sit and look at the things you consume and think about it. And I got an amazing question during the workshop on this about shows like Survivor and The Challenge and kind of game shows like that. And the person asked, "So what's my opinion on them watching those shows?" And to be fair, it's not about what to me in terms of that, because I think there's someone who watches that show and they see lying and backstabbing and manipulative people. And then there's probably another person who watches that show and they see behavior and human spirit and subtle acts of kindness, generosity. All of that to say, my response was, I think it's as much about how you're perceiving the message as what content you're consuming. So that's why I ask, what's the messaging of the entertainment? I could ask 10 people about Survivor. Like, what do you believe the message you're getting from this show? And I bet I'd get at least 7 or 8 different responses, because there are people who see one aspect of it and take something away, and someone else sees a completely different aspect of it and takes something away. And so, yes, looking at the type of stuff you're consuming, but also what takeaways you're receiving from it. So that's the next part. We're going to keep rolling through. So next up is nutrition, and I put this into food, drinks, and supplements. Quote by Heather Morgan: every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or fighting it. Very true. You are what you eat, drink, and supplement with. And so for this one, I just put very simple categories. There we go. Food, drinks, supplements. And for the most part, we're creatures of habit. So even if you eat not like I eat pretty much the same thing every day, there are plenty of people who don't, but you tend to eat a lot of the same things every week or every couple of weeks. But looking at what are your most regularly consumed foods, drinks, and supplements, and is that in alignment with the stuff that you want to be consuming? So, like, no shame, I love Kit Kat bars. I probably have at least one Kit Kat bar every week. And so, for that, if I'm just looking at like total health and optimization, I wouldn't be eating a Kit Kat bar. But for me, I feel rewarded and not guilty when I consume it. Now, if I had a king-sized Kit Kat bar every day, that would probably be a different story. I probably would feel a lot more guilt and shame around what it is I'm consuming. So thinking about really two things: the foods, drinks, and supplements you're consuming. Do they get you the results you want? And do you feel guilty when consuming it or not? I'm putting eating disorders off to the side for a second when I say that. There can be a whole other slew of issues and challenges that come from, do you feel guilty eating something when you have an eating disorder? I'm not touching that piece of this when going through the audit. If that's the case, I highly recommend talking to a professional, someone who not only has their credentials in nutrition, but also probably someone who has either gone through it themselves or has helped a lot of people overcome it and has again the credentials for helping someone with that. But barring that, do you feel good about what you're eating, and is it getting you the results that you want it to get? If it's not, a great way to overcome this is, like, a lot of people have wearables that track. They may not be 100% accurate, but at least get you in the ballpark of how many calories you're burning throughout the day. And then any free food tracker, just track that, see how many calories you're putting in, what the macro breakdown of it is. So are you getting enough protein? Tracking how much water you're drinking. Are you getting enough water throughout the day? And then in terms of supplementation, just again, a quick Google search will show you the essentials. The Model Health Show is a great one. Derek from More Plates, More Dates is a good person to listen to. There's an endless smorgasbord of nutrition experts who can help you if you're not in alignment with this. But we'll start with the audit. Just see how you're doing. So from there, next up is time. So as you can see, I had people write down hour by hour, day by day, what they typically are doing. I understand for some people, your schedule is not a typical 9 to 5. You don't have a set, Monday, I can tell you exactly where I'm going to be almost every single Monday, unless something out of the ordinary happens. But before I keep going, I'll hit you with the quote. Michael Hyatt: the busier you are, the more intentional you must be. That's why I have people write down hour by hour, day by day. And I go through and try to readjust my schedule every single week, because I don't want to get complacent about making sure I'm prioritizing the things that will make me feel the best to do as habits. So I ask people, how do you feel about the amount of time you spend or don't spend on your daily and weekly acts? That's not like chopping acts. That's like acts of service acts. But anyways, so look at that. Look at your schedule. If you don't keep a schedule, might be something that's worth doing, not just so you're a little more organized, but also it will do a fantastic job acting as almost like a time journal of just showing you what are you prioritizing. Because for me, I can look back and see 4 or 5, at least 6 years ago in May, what was I doing? How was I spending my time? How much time was I spending on work? How much time was I spending on fitness? How much time was I spending quality time with friends and family? How much time was I spending doing nothing? Because if I don't have anything on the books and I don't end up scheduling something, that usually is just a giant white blank spot in my calendar. So there are periods where my calendar has zero white space. And then there's times in my life where, for better or worse, there were days where there was only white space. And so really looking at that, look at how do you spend your time? What does your schedule look like? And that is a window to what you're prioritizing. So those to me are a lot of the external inputs. So next up is things that are generated internally. So, and that can be debated, but I'll just get into it. So next up is thoughts. The quote from Napoleon Hill, both poverty and riches are the offspring of thought. Obviously, that's a very, I think, limited way to say that your thoughts create your reality. That's just talking financial, but I believe that thoughts create reality, or at least they hold a lot of power in being a contributing factor, a key contributing factor. And so just simply thinking about what are some of your most common thoughts throughout the day and what influence do those thoughts have? So yeah, and the next one is beliefs. So I kind of just drew a through line straight into beliefs. So beliefs are thoughts. So what thoughts pop up in terms of beliefs about yourself, beliefs about life, beliefs about the world, beliefs about the people around you, and then thoughts about anything that pops into your head throughout the day. Really thinking about thinking is a very useful practice. A good way to do that, meditation, journaling, just taking a few minutes to not have stimulation. It's very easy to always be doing or consuming from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, whether that's being on your phone, being on your computer, being around other people, doing things, and just getting away from doing and just be and unplug to give yourself the mental space to think about what you're thinking about and how you're feeling and just where you're at gives your brain the ability to catch up. So that's the next one. And that's not just a rhetorical, like, yeah, take a second and think about it. Write down what are some of your most common thoughts throughout the day. Maybe this is something that you have to go through a couple days with a little, like one of those like Blues Clues style notebooks, but thinking about it, analyzing it, going into recognizing what are some of your most common thoughts. For me, this one was particularly impactful because I even having a pretty regular meditation practice, having a pretty regular journaling practice, being what I consider to be a relatively self-aware human being, there were still a lot of thoughts that are consistent that were slipping through the cracks. And until I actually jotted these things down, I probably wouldn't have noticed how influential they are to what my experience is. So actually write them down, actually confront them. From there, the last one is just overall habits. So after going through all the previous sections, what are some of your most frequent habits? So this will probably be double writing a lot of things, but looking at the habitual thoughts, habitual beliefs, habitual acts on your schedule, habitual places, habitual people, just looking at the most common patterns of inputs in your life and objectively asking, is this checking all the boxes for you to be aligned with the version of yourself you want to be? And that is the audit. Give yourself credit for the things you're doing well. Hold yourself accountable for making the changes that you need to make for the things that you are not in alignment with. And that's just simply closing the gap. So, what audit items are you going to walk away from? People, places, forms of entertainment, foods, drinks, thoughts, beliefs. What items are you going to set boundaries with? What new habits and systems are you going to develop? And how are you going to positively reinforce the behavior change? That is huge. There's a reason New Year's resolutions get dumped on every year about 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember. I think it's like January 18th or 19th is National Quitters Day. But even just thinking about it, if you have a plan, you execute the plan, you're consistent with it, there needs to be some type of reinforcement and reward to stay the path. Now, that can be an internal reward. It can simply be just sitting and actually letting yourself feel the gratitude and joy that comes with making the change. It can be an external reward, making sure that you're giving yourself some type of cherry on top for staying true to the changes you want to make. Now, I don't know that, like, if we're talking nutrition and you eat well for a day, your reward should be eating an extra dessert at the end of that day. So making sure that the reward still helps you stay in alignment, but something that really adds to the experience for you. So we go through the audit. You've seen and exposed yourself to all of the things you're doing well, all of the things that can be changed or removed, filling in the cracks and making sure that the things that are missing, add the new habits, add the new systems, add the new people, go out and find people that are in alignment. And then, yeah, make sure you're closing the gap. But the last piece of this, and I say this at the end of all of these workshops, I'm hoping that if you're listening to this, you actually did this, because if you aren't taking notes and going through this, just listening to me spew on about this, it might motivate you. I hope it does, but it won't be nearly as impactful and it won't help you nearly as much as if you actually do the dang thing. So if you've gotten to this point and you haven't written anything down, please, please, please actually go do this at some point in the next few days while it's fresh. But whether you're listening to this on YouTube or you sit in on one of my events, all of this, all of the information you just heard, all of the clarity you just received, that is by no means the finish line. You're not like cured and saved. This is the start line. This is the process of stretching out the legs and getting warmed up. And now you're at the start line. Now you have to go implement. It is very easy to fall in the trap of, I believe it's actually called mental masturbation, where you just get your jollies from getting motivated by someone talking about things like this. But if there's something that I've learned myself recently, it's that if you are so busy talking about how excited you are to do something, it seems, at least for me, to take away from actually doing something. And it almost seems like the reward center gets hit from just the talking about it and the excitement around talking about it. And it pulls steam from the action and the production and the implementation. And so that's what I'm going to urge you to do, because that is a trap I have fallen in time and time again, is don't just talk about it, be about it. Go make these changes. Do it for you. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to people talk about self-development, people talk about these tips and tricks and systems that are going to help you out, make sure that you're the person who actually does it. there's a big difference between wanting change and being willing to change. Be the person who's willing to change, because if you do implement these changes, if you do level up, you aren't just leveling up yourself, you are being the light and being the guide for so many people around you. And so, in being selfish and leveling up and making sure that you're living the life you want, you're becoming the version of you that you want to be, you will be impacting another, probably multiple others, to do the same. So, go implement, go actually do this. So, that right there is the audit framework. The whole framework is exactly the name, auditing all of the inputs that are influencing your thoughts, your words, your actions, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the world around you. So go get it. But hopefully that did the trick. Hopefully that helps you out. If you know someone else who, like I said, you can tell that their inputs are off and they're out of alignment, send this to them. Have them run through it. I don't know how long this actually is, maybe like 30 minutes or so, but share this with people. Make sure that you're not hogging the insights that you come across. If you do have questions, if there's things that don't seem clear to you, go ahead and throw a comment in there. But I think that should do it. So to wrap up, first of all, thank you everybody for tuning in. Best Self happenings coming up. Every Wednesday, we're doing a Best Self Sports Club. So that's from 5:30 to 7 p.m. It's just a different sport activity, getting outside, moving around, connecting with other people who like to get outside and move around. So this Wednesday, we will be doing basketball at Mid City Sports in Heartland. Come ball out, sink some threes or air ball in my case. But that will be every Wednesday. And after the activity, that night is when we will decide what the next week's activity will be. So if you want your vote to count, either make sure you show up and invite other people to show up, or make sure to send Best Self a DM or an email. All of the contact info is in the description. But that's going on. The weekend of May 18th and 19th, that's going to be a packed weekend. On the 18th, we have a Confidence Catalyst workshop. That is a collaboration between Coach Krista Smith and myself. So the first portion is going to be about self-confidence in terms of body image, in terms of fitness, in terms of just overall physical well-being. And then we're going to expand on it and just pull into self-confidence, self-worth in life. So if that's something that you struggle with or someone that you know struggles with, get on it, sign up for that. That's May 18th, Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon. The next day on the 19th, we have part 5 of the framework series. That one is titled The Apple. So that one will be from 10:30 a.m. until noon. And then right after that, from 1:30 to 2:30, we have a free meditation class with the guru himself, Kyle Jackson. Go ahead and check those out. And then that Monday, this will be a virtual class. It's a free class from 7 to 8 p.m. And it will be all about nutrition fundamentals. So if you went through this and nutrition stood out as something that you are a little out of alignment with, hop on that call. We'll get you squared away, at least the basics and the fundamentals of it. And then I think that might be it for happenings at the studio. But probably the biggest thing on the calendar coming up, June 1st through June 2nd, is a charity event for the Jackson Sparks Foundation. That will be at formerly known as Body by Design, now Rising Fitness. I believe by the time this comes out, Rising Fitness. So that will be a endurance workout, and it's build your own. So the workout is already established. It's a full body circuit. You pick how long you want to go for, or at least try to go for. So you can do just a simple 1 round through, probably about 45 minutes, and then call it. You can go for anywhere from 1 hour to 3 hours to 5 hours. I am going to be doing full 24 hours for anyone crazy enough to push themselves, but please check that out. $30 minimum donation. And I think that should do it. So thank you, everybody. Make sure that you check out all the happenings on the website. Check out all the stuff in the description below, all the links. Go hit them. Hit that like button. Throw a comment in there. Share this with someone. And that's about it. I will catch you next time. Peace.